in this tutorial we're going to be creating a small application that allows us to enter a string of text into this text box here, and we're then going to be able to enter a list of comma separated words to find, or of course this could just be one word, and then the replacement just here, which will also be comma separated and will relate to the words you've entered. So I'll go ahead and give you an example. I could type, for example, Alex went to the cinema, and the words that I might want to find would be Alex and cinema, and then I might want to replace Alex with Billy and cinema with park, for example. Click submit, and then this is changed here. So in this video we're going to be looking at actually quite a few different things in PHP. The first thing we're obviously going to be looking at is submitting form data. The next thing we're going to be looking at is arrays, because we're going to be exploding these values, because obviously this will be a string value here. This thing here will be a string value. We'll need to split this into two different elements, and that involves exploding array values, or arrays into strings into array values. And we're also going to be walking through arrays, because for our regular expression to actually replace this, we need to change these values and put forward slashes like this. I'll explain more about that a bit later though. We're also going to be looking at the ternary operator to make things a bit more simple, so we don't have too many if statements within our overall condition if the form's submitted. And we're also going to be looking then at preg replace, which is a function that takes a Perl regular expression and then goes ahead and replaces it within a string. So there's quite a lot to look at here, nothing very complicated at all, so if you're confused by any of the terminology I've used, don't worry about it. But what we'll do now is head over to the text editor and start to code this up. Okay, so we're starting from scratch. This is important because we're going to name our field specifically, so then we can pick these up within our conditional statement when the user submits the form. So let's go ahead and start to build the form up outside of PHP. So I'm just going to start with nothing here. I'm going to create a form with an action and a method. Now the action is going to be blank. We're submitting back to the same page, but the method's going to be post, and we'll just be picking this up in a slightly different way. Instead of using get, which shows in the URL bar up here. Okay, so now we need an input field here and an input field here. Now these are next to each other. You saw just a moment ago in the example, we've got one that allows us to enter the keywords for finding and then replacing as well. So in fact, let's bring these down onto a new line. The type for both is going to be text. We're going to have a name for both of these. This is extremely important because PHP needs to pick this name up. So I'm going to say find and replace. And I'm also going to include a placeholder as well. And for browsers that support this, this will give the user a visual cue as to what to type in this box, and then that will disappear when they start to type. And again, if they remove anything, this will be applied back in. It's just a better way to do it than writing the JavaScript yourself. So here will be replacement text here. Okay, so the user sort of knows what to do. So let's go check this out now. Continue. So we've got words to find replacement text here. Looks fine to me. We're going to come down and I'm going to create a paragraph element, and within this I'm going to enter, or create rather, a text area element. Now here we need to give this a name again, so I'm just going to call this text. This is just how we pick it up in PHP, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the rows and the cols attribute. Ideally you'd style this. I'm just doing this to adjust the size of the text area. You can see at the moment it's really tiny. Ideally you'd use styling to do this, but for the sake of the tutorial. So I'm going to give this a rows of 37, a cols of 37. I already know the rough measurements to make this the right size, like that. So that's just a bit bigger now. And then obviously we're going to come down and we need a submit button, which is extremely important for submitting the form. So I'm just going to do that. That's it. So now we have our complete form. We can click submit. That's actually submitted through to the page. We've submitted these values. They're not set yet, so we're going to need to use PHP to detect whether they're set or not. Otherwise, all of our operation will happen as the user lands on the page. So what do? Well, we come up here, we open a PHP tag, and we close a PHP tag, and we start to write our code. So what we need to do first of all is detect whether this form has been submitted. So let's go ahead and create an if statement. And within our condition, we need to use isSet to check whether the find, replace, and text form posted data has been submitted. So we say isSet equal to true. Now, if isSet returns true, everything in here will be executed or ran. And isSet allows us to pass one or more pieces of data. Okay, so it doesn't have to be form data, but in this case, the notation to pick up, for example, find, will be $_post find. So we've got this post array, and this signifies we're accessing an element within an array, which is find. So I'll demonstrate this further in just a moment. So if you don't understand, then I'll go over this. But $_post replace, and I'm comma separating these values as parameters to this isSet function, if you like. Okay, so now I am checking if find, replace, and text is true. The reason is because we don't need to do anything in here if we don't have any text, we don't have any words to find, or we don't have any words to replace. So for example, if we were to have enter some text here and then enter some words to find, but we didn't enter words to replace, there's no point. Oh, well, I mean, this would still run. It just means that we make sure we've got all the data. We'll need to check if that was empty, but we'll deal with that in just a moment. So what do we do now? Well, we need to go ahead and demonstrate, well, I was going to go ahead and demonstrate how this works. So $_post. So what I'm doing now is I'm printing $_post. In fact, we can do this in here. I'm using print R, which is going to show us the values within post. So if I was to go ahead and click submit, we've got array, find, replace, and text, and these are all empty. Now if I was to go ahead and type in Alex here, find Alex, and replace this with Billy, for example, click submit, you now see that these contain the values here. So we're posting this data and it's within this array, so we can access it using find, replace, and text, which we've done here, find, replace, and text. So within here, what do we need to do? Well, I first of all need to go ahead and split the keywords that we've entered. So we've entered some text and we want to say Alex, cinema. We need both these values, so we need to use the explode function to use a delimiter, which is the comma in this case, to retrieve this value and this value and place it within an array. So in the next part, what we'll do is we'll look closely at doing this, exploding values, and we'll go ahead and use print R again so we can see what's happening behind the scenes. And then we'll start to sort of build up our other if statements, now ternary operator statements, to take the replace keywords and also then actually go ahead and replace the text. And then finally, we'll look at actually outputting it.